And now we are going to drift to beautiful Ireland. Mr. Kevin Dooley came to Canada from Ireland in 1977. He is a retired marine engineer, machinist, and is now an author, musician, and heritage activist. He is going to give us a real treat today. Please welcome Mr. Kevin Dooley to the stage.
I'm just overwhelmed by what's just gone on in front of me. So I'm just wondering, I'm just a simple guy with a flute and a voice, but it doesn't matter, I'm all part of this wonderful day. So thanks for inviting me, and thanks for this lovely audience here. And the spirit of I'm overwhelmed by the spirit coming through, because that's what I'm going to share with you. It's a very special moment here. I'm from Ireland originally. Like I saw in Gaelgate, I'm fresh in Shinantanga. Well, there's people who know people from Ireland, people who've been to Ireland here. Just show your hands, please. I know there's a few out there. And you know the Irish people, we've lived on that island a long time, nearly 5,000 years. And we have our own Gaelic language, which is related to our land. But we suffered 700 years of brutal colonialism, which suppressed entirely the language and drove our people into the diaspora, or one of the widest diasporas in the world, because the British colonial system was very, very brutal and thought to destroy the Irish race, and almost succeeded, and drove out millions of people out of there through forced famine and forced starvation. And I have a tune I'm going to play here. It's a very old Gaelic tune and a song, and then that will explain in itself. And actually, this is the coming of the Irish to Canada. Our people who came here, our settlers here, the Irish settlers, were one of the first people, among the first peoples to come into this, other than the indigenous people here. And we were the labourers, we were the workers, and we came in here, and we faced terrible discrimination in what was then British Canada. Mostly. Now, this is the song I'm going to give you, the tune I'm going to play on an Irish flute, a traditional Irish flute. It's called Skibbereen, and this is a town in the west of Ireland that was literally devastated in a period of the 1840s called we call it Gortamone, the Great Hunger, when the country was forced into, people probably familiar with that, we had a forced famine. India's experienced this too on several occasions, where the British administration allowed 1 million people to die and drove out 2 million people. And a lot of them came into Canada. This is their story. I'm going from the flute to the song. So sorry, I've got to change the valve I'm using in my throat here. Because I can't jump from one to the other without a little water. So bear with me a second. I'm gonna get that. Yeah, I'm gonna find my voice now. Yeah, It's different when you blow on the flute, it's singing and singing here, and I'm singing from my diaphragm here. Trying to find it. Oh, Father dear, I oftentimes hear you speak of Aaron's isle. Our lofty seas, our valleys green, our mountains wide and high. Yes, it is a lovely land where a prince might dwell. Oh, why did you abandon it? Had a reason to retell. Oh, son, I loved my native land with energy and pride. The blight came o'er my crops, my sheep and cattle died. My rent and taxes were too high, I could not redeem. And that's another reason why I left old Skibbereen. Oh, well, I do remember a bleak December day, on the landlord and the soldiers came to drive us all away. They set my thatch on fire with their cursed English spleen, and that's a cruel reason why I left old Skibbereen. Your mother dear, God rest her soul, fell on the snowy ground. She fainted in her anguish, seeing such desolation round. She passed away from this life to a mortal dream, and found a quiet grave by in dear old Skibbereen. Ah, you were only 2 years old, and feeble was your frame. I could not leave you with my friends, for you bore your father's name. I wrapped you in my coat of moor at the dead of night unseen. I heaved a sigh and waved goodbye to dear old Skibbereen. Ah, Father dear, the day will come and answer to the call, which Irishmen with feeling stern will rally all. I'll be the man to lead the band beneath the flag of green. We'll raise the cry both loud and high, remember Skibbereen. We'll raise the cry both loud and high, revenge for Skibbereen. Yeah, Thank you. My name is Kevin Dooley, and I found this is fast forward here. There's an island on the St. Lawrence River. In the middle of the St. Lawrence River, there's a long island there called Groseal. Give me hands here for those who know about it. Anyone know the island of Groseal? Okay, it was a kind of a quarantine station set up looking after the quarantine ships coming in the 19th century. It was set up in 1832, and it was closed down in the 1930s. So all the ships that came up the St. Lawrence from all over the world came in there and were stopped there. It was a quarantine station. They would check the ships and they would check the people for disease, and then those ships that were allowed would be pass up to Montreal, and pass up to Kingston, and pass up to so the passage along that route was where the immigrants came into Canada in those periods. So that's millions of people came through. But there's one black year. There's one very, very, very black year. It's the summer of 1847, when 100,000 starving people from Ireland, and
about 200 ships. These were people were driven off the land by the landlords of the British, forced into anything that could float, and shipped across into what was British North America. They couldn't come into the States to let them in. They had to come here because it was British, to come out of a British colony in there. So when they came through to Grow Seal, they were stopped at Grow Seal. And it turns out most of them had typhus. 11,500 of them are buried there in long graves. That's what I'm talking 2 months here. And I went there a few years back. This is finally, after a long struggle with the Irish community, we fought corners here in Parks, Canada, to get a national memorial. It's a World Heritage Site, it's a National Heritage Site. It's called the Ireland Famine Site. And there's all the graves are there. There's a big wall with all the names on it. And I went to see the names on it, and my name was on there. Michael Dooley was on there. But the records were kept. He was 22, and he came from a place near where I come from. And we're clans in Ireland. We have clan names. So Dooley is my name. I speak Gaelic. We have the ancient language is still there. And Mihal O'Dooley is I'm known as Kevin Dooley, but Michael Kevin in my area. I'm known as Kevin, but I was called after my grandfather who died just before I was born. Now I looked up Michael Kevin Dooley, and sure enough, the records were kept. The ships, strangely enough, had records. Michael Dooley was 22. And he came over here with his family. Some survived, some didn't. And he died of typhus. And he was buried in one of those long graves somewhere. We don't know where he's buried. He's in there somewhere. So the song I just sang, it just resonates with me. And I've gone back before, and I've gone back again. And I've gone back to, in front of that monument, I played the flute and played the tin whistle on it. Because it resonates with me. But then the story is much more. So those thousands that died there. And there's so many, the Grow Seal story, there's so many coming in with so many ships that were pushed further up into Montreal. It's not that far if you know the geography of the St. Lawrence, it's Quebec City. The Grow Seal is in the middle there, further up is Montreal. And there was so many died. There was 6,000 Irish buried there in Montreal in one mass grave. Huge, near the Victoria Bridge. There's a big, huge stone there. There's a meteorite stone was pulled out of the river, and that buried. But as Montreal became crowded, to push them up the river, they had small steam launches. They put these people in barges and on sick and dying people, and they came to Kingston. 1,300 went to Kingston, and they all died. About 900 went they were pushed down to Toronto. They all died. But strangely enough, we've only discovered recently, at Kingston, the back end, the Rideau Canal comes up the back end. And when Kingston got crowded, about 800 people, families, all suffering from typhus, were pushed up the Rideau River and dumped here, right at the bottom of the Rideau Canal. And it turns out that you've heard of Elizabeth Briere, the Briere Hospital and the Briere nuns, I'm sure you have here, her and those young nuns. And those people were just dumped along the nuns. The nuns went out, young nuns, or they were young, some of them were only teenagers, went out. And what they first did, they didn't know at the time that lice caused typhus. They just cleaned those people up, cut their hair, scrubbed them down, cleaned them down. And 168 died, but over 80% of them survived. That's the only place where they survived. And they're all buried. The ones who 168 were died, and they're buried. And we just found this out recently in McDonald's Park, which is just near here, or in the city. So I got to play that tune at Skibbereen at McDonald's Park on a ceremony recently. And we're looking at the city and the Irish community in that to honour those people. But this story it's not just a story of the Irish, it's a story of Sister Briere and those nuns who stepped up to save those people. So the stomach to come, and as I said earlier, this is a story of the coming of the Irish to Canada. We faced the most brutal conditions ever, but our people prospered. And now Irish are in the oligarchy, or Irish are in the government, we did it through fighting and through education, through hanging in. So we're celebrating India, and it's funny, being here today on an Indian festival is very important because coming from Ireland, we understood colonialism, we understood the whole legacy of the people of India. And India just recently celebrated 75 years of independence, and Ireland just recently celebrated 100 years of independence. So it is a pleasure to be here and share this with you. Thank you.
Mr. Dooley, this was just such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Not only for sharing your story, but this very important piece of history with us. Thank you.